We're giving away $5 million in media. We'll roll the dice on this guy. He can go build his network. We'll put the money up front. So that is what gave me my money. They bought in without a network even existing.
Because you can't make change alone. You can't, rising tides raise all ships.
Who you are in the real world here, or who you showcase yourself to be in this world, is who you are in private. Be the same person, do the same things when nobody's watching.
In a month where we saw the ultimate launch of Artemis 2, we're reminded that high-growth execution requires zero room for chaos.
But from the Juno Awards in Hamilton to the ad tech merger frenzy, the industry is feeling a lifequake. Brands are asking, are we building a stadium or just renting a seat?
Ben Affleck is moving from doer to architect, with the artist equity proving the pipeline is changing.
Today, we deconstruct the architects of sovereignty.
From the environmental fortress of Patagonia to the multi-million-dollar purpose rail of Jaime Thompson.
The Sixth Suite. Episode 5, The Infrastructure of Integrity, Architecting the Sovereign Legacy. Hello and welcome, I'm Claire Ravenstreet.
And I'm Nikki Stone, and this is the Sixth Suite.
We're two senior media and C-suite executives who have spent our careers building and scaling brands within the system, and we've even had the chance to work together before. And through it all, we noticed a gap in the conversation around leadership.
There were a lot of conversation about what Trailblazers were doing, but the Sixth is all about how Trailblazers did it, because we understood that it wasn't just one single great idea, but a sixth sense. A blend of strategic resilience and unconventional thinking that led to innovation.
So in each episode, we put a leader, a brand, or a business under the microscope. As the architect of influence, I look at their external strategy. How did they build their coalition? How did they secure their resources? And how did they shape their narrative?
And as the architect of growth, I deconstruct the internal journey. Where did the resilience to persevere come from? And how did they build a culture that could withstand the pressures of scale? How did they take that and balance growth with values?
This podcast is for the next generation of leaders, executives, and innovators who are ready to move beyond inspiration and build a tangible blueprint for change.
The Sixth is for anyone who believes the system can be rebuilt to be more equitable. If you're looking for the tools, the insight, or the hope, welcome to the Sixth Suite. All right, so why this episode, Claire? I'm particularly excited about this episode. It felt a little serendipitous because when I walked into the studio this afternoon, the team was actually talking about rock climbing, and we're deconstructing the Patagonia case, as you know, which is one that we've been talking about for a year almost, about just wanting to deconstruct this case.
Just
because
a brilliant brand. Oh. Yeah, incredible company.
It from start to finish, I think I could spend an entire hour, and we won't do that to anybody today, just talking about them. But there's so much in there, and I felt like just the moment of the serendipity between that and the founder Yvonne's story and our feature founder today, which is Jaime Thompson. I'm a big fan of Jaime's as well. I sit on the board of iDream. With Jaime, and they're both accidental founders.
And I also think they are both founders who have kept their core values really at the forefront of what they do. Like, obviously, Patagonia, their whole love of the environment, from their policies for their people, but all the way to their self-imposed environmental tax. And then, of course, Jaime with iDream sat as the president of Ad Club Toronto, part of supporting NABs. So really core as part of their kind of being, they've built into their companies.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig in, but before we do, a lot has happened in the last few weeks since we were in studio last. I want to acknowledge that the Junos happened, and certainly the Masters also just happened, and those are two iconic things, and I think deserve the attention to. But I need to take the time to talk about Artemis 2.
Absolutely fair.
If we've only got 45 minutes today, I think Artemis 2 has to really win out. That just happened a few weeks ago from when we're in the studio, and this crew, this whole exploration was amazing.
Yeah, a massive cultural moment. I think there are so many elements that are just so inspiring, from the age of the astronauts, all of them in their 40s, 50s.
Yes.
What a way to showcase kind of you can do anything at any age. Don't let it stop yourself. Obviously, they have been working their whole lives to build the careers that they have. to get themselves in that opportunity. But wow, your first time in space, for some of them, obviously some of them have been to the space station before, absolutely incredible.
It just shows that ageism, the place for ageism that we've seen a lot of, specifically we see this a lot in our industries, that has no place.
Yeah.
That you really need that level of expertise that comes with time, right? Some of these people, they have multiple degrees in intense subjects.
Yeah.
Like, it's just absolutely wild. We had our first Canadian orbiting the moon. Jeremy Hansen.
Yeah.
I like to call him our farm to moon.
Yes.
His story is, as a small town girl, as a small town girl myself, his story just really resonates because he is from outside of London, Ontario, in this.
Ailsa Craig?
Quite possibly. Definitely the Craig part. I got that. But he, 50 years old, came up through the military.
Yeah.
Entered the Air Force's, the Air Cadets. Sorry, he entered the Air Cadets at the age of 12.
Yeah.
Wild guy.
Amazing that you can then obviously orbit the moon from that kind of, I guess, humble beginnings. I think Christina, obviously, first woman in deep space, which is incredible. 47 years old.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing.
Can I nerd out about Christina just
100%.
for a split second? Because this is a woman who, she's extreme structural testing. If we want to talk about resilience for a moment, this woman spent 3.5 years in the Arctic and Antarctica, including the South Pole.
Yeah.
Those places don't even get sunlight for parts of the year.
Yeah,
it's completely complete darkness.
Yeah, 10 days in space, easy. No problem. Then you've got Victor Glover, first black man, being able to go up, which is crazy that it's taking us this long. Same with, obviously, Christina.
It's, I think with Victor, he's a clear textbook case of somebody that had to overcome imposter tax. Because he spent, 3,000 flight hours being the first black astronaut to live on the ISS. And I didn't want to misquote that one. I really wanted to look at that because I was that is a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Held 4 advanced degrees as well. Definitely overqualified to orbit the moon. And then obviously the lead, Reed. Which is amazing. He was first rejected from the Naval Academy, and his whole story in terms of overcoming hurdles to then become the lead, the pivotal person of this whole mission is incredible.
And not a young fellow either, 50 as well. He's from Baltimore. You're right. So it was an interesting thing. And I was dying to ask you this because he famously talks about the fact that he got 16% on an exam. Yeah. And this is clearly a very intelligent man by anybody's standards. But, tuna, salmon, they're both fish, but trying to tell when to swim upstream is maybe not its natural habitat. So.
I like that saying. My favorite is if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you're going to be sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
It's but it made me want to ask you the question, Claire. Have you ever failed?
Oh yes, first driving test.
Really?
Probably the first test I ever failed. I was a bit of a goody two shoes in school.
Yeah. That's what I
thought.
Made me a that is driver. Exactly what I thought about you.
That's why I remember it deeply.
I was there has to be. I'm I wonder if she's ever failed at anything.
Oh yeah.
And that's really what Reed is I would say the poster child. He really took his own path. He really had to come up a different way. He had to find his own way to get to where he wanted to go.
And just single-minded direction in terms of flight, and then obviously eventually into space. I think also failure is a good kind of theme of Artemis 2, which obviously sounds really bad because they have come back safely and it all worked incredibly well, even better than what the optimists were saying it was going to be. However, they had 3 failed launches before the April launch, which I think just goes to show that failure is something that is positive. You learn from it. They had technical issues and they fixed it. And of course, they had some minor technical issues with the toilet, I believe. On the way up there, they had to save some water at one point. But that was the whole point of this mission, is testing the technology to see if you can do it again. Because this isn't just a one-off. Obviously, Artemis 1 happened beforehand, unmanned. Artemis 2, 4 people. the whole plan is they said 2028, I believe, although I believe they've slowly pushing that out to like 2030, is to put people back on the moon. And so the whole point of every single launch is learning more and learning from your mistakes versus doing it once every 3 years and having to start from the beginning again every single time.
It's I'm here for all of this, and I loved that it was two countries working together, the collaboration in this.
But even more so, more countries in the back end. So although there were two countries in terms of Canada and the US actually on the mission, in the back end, the UAE, Japan, Europe, all those space agencies. And when we talk about within our industry in terms of IATs and working together as agencies, like, can you imagine the complexity of all of those space agencies aligning with a common mission and being able to provide the best for the group?
You know that I believe that winning is a team sport, and I want to pause on Artemis just for a second because it's a great way for us to update about our boy Ben.
Yes, our boy Ben.
Our boy Ben, and because 1,200 people had to come together to make that production of we talked about it a few episodes ago, of like the work that he did with Netflix and like
Artist equity, yeah. Trying to make it so that everyone shared in the bonus if they'd actually performed.
Yeah. So they met their deliverables, and now everyone
gets paid.
Everyone gets paid. And it was 1,200 fucking people who had to take a seat at the table together.
Yeah.
And I think you're saying that from an IAT perspective. It's clear in the Artemis 2 case. Like, we forget that winning requires collaboration. There's external forces that I know you're certainly an expert at, but that come into play with that, about how are we going to include those into what's happening and actually get that rising tides raise all ships kind of moment that I love.
100%, definitely.
And speaking of rising tides raise all ships, what better case to deconstruct today than the Patagonia case? I want to talk about that one because that is a true case that is all about the ultimate shareholder being planet Earth.
Yeah, that's definitely all ships rising together. Let's do it.
Disruption isn't a buzzword. It's a blueprint. And in a world of digital noise, the smartest brands are building physical world ad units. That's why I'm so obsessed with what Deb Hall is building at Dive. They aren't just placing ads. They're bridging the gap between innovation and ROI by turning physical spaces into data-driven opportunities. If you're ready to move beyond the scroll and start architecting real-world impact, you need to be at the table with Dive. Visit divebillboard.com and see the future for yourself.
Okay, let's get into the case. Let's talk about Patagonia. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with Rose.
Sideways move, yeah.
I know, but I think because she was an external CEO brought into the Patagonia environment that Yvon was obviously the visionary for. But he brought in a CEO, and her name is Rose. And underneath that structure and with that purpose, Rose was actually able to triple their growth under her leadership and have 100% return to work from females who left for mat leave and returned to office and came back to the company, and like a 5% attrition rate.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's held a 4% attrition rate on my teams, I can tell you that is like, you have to have people so locked in to what you're building and why you're building it that they want to show up every day, because they're not showing up for you at that kind of rates. They're showing up for the purpose.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that purpose, obviously, and I think kudos to Yvonne for actually saying, you know what? Accidental entrepreneur. I am not the person that should make the bigger business leadership decisions. I need a CEO for that. I'm all about quality, standards, testing. He was all about the actual product.
Yes.
And he recognized that he needed to bring on someone with the same values as him, absolutely, but to actually run the business side.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very on brand because his whole, his book, if you've read it, and you know that I'm a book junkie, so of course, but the let my people surf kind of philosophy, and it's even funnier because he really was, you said he was about the product. He was a blacksmith.
I know. I love that so any point when people ask him what his job is, he says he's a blacksmith. Still.
Yeah.
He's like 80.
His quality obsession was because they were climbers and they were in the extreme elements with their equipment and they were making this. And so if their equipment failed, it was life or death. Like,
Yep, literally. Yep.
you might die.
Yep.
And if that's the case, then they became so obsessive about quality, but at what cost? So they didn't want to have anything that would then impact the environment.
Yeah.
Balancing those two worlds so beautifully came together in this company.
Yeah, and I think amazingly, they actually didn't care about the cost. So they were balancing the quality and the environmental impact, but they didn't care if their product, like when the first product that they had was like the pitons that you use when you're climbing, and the European versions were 20 cents and theirs was $1.50, like crazy markup.
Wasn't he selling those out the back of his car?
Yes, while surfing. But the point was that people will pay for quality because I also love his whole philosophy around quality is about simplicity. And his whole ethos was where other people add functionality to something, he tries to strip away to what the core of a product needs. So when they moved into clothing to make money, because he realized that he couldn't actually make money from the equipment he was making, the whole kind of brief for an item is what does it functionally need to do? And then we'll go and make it in the best way possible. We will try and make it as lightweight as possible. We'll try to make it as environmentally friendly as possible. But it all comes down to the function of the product. And my favorite bit is that he said that when he dies and he goes to hell, which obviously he won't because look at the whole thing, but when he goes to hell, his form of hell would be having to market a brand that has no differentiation in the market. He name checks some specific soft drinks products, but to him, that would be hell. Because for him, the differentiation is that they are making something that no one else makes because of the quality of what they're making.
And they do that in a way of 98% renewable energy in their own factories. And they're on track to be net zero by 2040.
Which is incredible.
98% of their materials are preferred. So they're either recycled, organic, or regenerative, which is amazing. And why their secondary market, which by the way, they own the rails to that as well.
Yeah.
And I love this from an environmental standpoint. They're trying to repair 100,000
garments
a year and put them back in.
And it doesn't even have to be their own.
Yes.
What I love about that is that their whole purpose is to be good for the planet. They want to save the planet. And so it makes perfect business sense. You're bringing people back in. Yes, you're going to fix that item, but of course you're also showcasing everything else that you can help them with their lives in their ranges. But also truly adhering to that value in terms of fixing other people's stuff too.
It actually shouldn't be surprising, but what a surprising move, and the ultimate unconventional move at that, to put the company in a trust.
Yeah.
And the Earth now being their only shareholder.
Yeah. And it's perfect because it means they don't have any pressure from, Wall Street shareholders in terms of getting bigger profits, having smaller staffing, all of the things that we've talked about being an issue right now in our marketplace. They can just focus on what is the best thing, what is the best way to deliver that outcome in terms of the Earth being the only shareholder. Like it's such a good sixth sense in terms of like moving your company to a trust and making it so that everything is pointing to your core goal.
Right.
What he wants is the company to still exist in 100 years and to be doing good.
And he's not saying that the company's not profitable. He's saying that once they hit that point, that they don't need to be more profitable when greed is not the reason for existing. Then all of the rest of that goes back into causes that they believe in. And going back to Rose for a moment, this is where she really shined. Like even in tax benefits and tax cuts that came in like 2018, they ended up getting a $10 million tax break. And she took all of that and immediately injected into charities and organizations that were good for the planet.
Yeah.
And
what a way to live your values.
Yeah.
I also really like that obviously they have healthcare from day one, all of the things you'd expect from that company.
100%
But-
healthcare coverage paid for
From day one.
even part-time staff.
Yeah. But also they will cover your bail if you are arrested for peaceful protest, like anywhere, which I just love, as that's like, you know, just down in your contract. Like, oh, great. Yep. They'll bail me out. Like,
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's the kind of support that I want. If I'm out peacefully protesting something that I believe in, that's good for the planet. And I want to know that the people that I'm working with have my back.
Yeah. And as you said, like that is part of their kind of EQ, their emotional intelligence of that human infrastructure. How Rose got such a high retention level is because they really care about the people. The let's go surfing kind of, let my people go surfing, sorry. The whole idea is they have truly flexible working where if the surf is good one day or if there's fresh powder, people can just go and enjoy it, and that you don't live to work, you work to live.
Yes.
And that is like built into the ethos of the company.
You know, I like to spend a lot of time in Costa Rica, and my favorite time is the rainy season. And that's because that's the culture in rainy season. So once it's raining, you like scurry back home and you go back to work. And then the sun shines for the next few hours and you go back out and do your shopping, go to the beach, do whatever. And then as soon as sunset rolls around, everyone comes back to the beach to watch sunset every night.
Sounds like a life.
It's really beautiful. It's my favorite time of year to go because it really is. It embodies that philosophy of hit the waves, go play when the weather's meant to play, and work is a means to afford a life I really enjoy living. I know you've heard me say that before, but it's true, and it's not what defines you, but why you show up is what defines you.
And he also had a not rule, but his whole, you know, being begrudgingly owning this business, his whole rule was everyone should enjoy it. You should turn up every day with a spring in your step and a smile on your face because you actually want to be there and you enjoy the work and you're proud of the work and you enjoy working with the people, which absolutely is like the ethos for any founder should have when they're starting a company because, happy employees lead to a good product, they lead to good profits for shareholders, etc.
Listen, we heard this from Nicolette when she was on a few episodes ago, and feel free to link that clip back into it because it was the first thing that her investors and her investors were like the founders of TurboTax, no small slouch here, of companies that are highly recognized, and we've heard that
good companies to work for, best places to work for in Canada, all of those.
Yeah. Treat your people right. Put your efforts there because your people are the ones that are really the heart and soul of everything you do every day.
Yeah, especially with AI coming in. And one of the things that I love that Patagonia did in that sense, that's obviously very close to my heart, is they had childcare on site. Not free, you still had to pay for it, but affordable childcare on site. And there are stories of kind of like people coming in and someone's kid just being sat on the desk, you know, eating their peanut butter sandwiches or whatever, just while everyone's just working around, and then gets to go back to daycare, and the dad's had this lovely lunch with his kid that he'd never have if you didn't have the childcare on site.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when they started that, they were like 130th maybe it's in the country to have that, and now there's over 1,800 companies that have childcare on site for that reason because they realize the impact. But also, when we talked a little bit earlier about ageism and anti-ageism, women were returning to work at higher rates and versus the industry norm.
Yeah.
And if you're a company that doesn't support, that number can be as low as 60%, mothers returning to work after maternity leave. And the institutional knowledge
That you lose
as an organization is catastrophic to your bottom line. These guys, Patagonia calculated this as a 91% ROI.
for bringing the women back. Yeah.
Because that's how much you could lose otherwise in knowledge and power.
Even more so, obviously, they start in the States, like with the crazy maternity leave, well, non-existent maternity leave that they have.
It's actually egregious.
The fact that Patagonia were like, you know what, I'm not going to let the state dictate this. We're doing this a different way, and this is what we're going to do about it.
Yeah, because it was the right thing to do. And it's interesting because that really goes into their philosophy of nothing is sustainable.
Yeah, they're never perfect.
Right. and that you're not right. You understand that, and that goes into that with yourself. And so, you know, how they live with their family and understanding there's finite amount of time in this life to catch those waves, to find those perfect moments, and to find those beautiful times to live. It really leans into as well to his radical transparency of like, I'm going to go climbing, I'm going to do whatever, and I'm going to be an absent.
Yeah. And he purposely, he says he looked at kind of, you know, wildlife and looked at the best way to structure his company. And that's the whole point, is that there should not be one person that everyone is relying on.
Single
that
point
means
of failure.
that no one else can work if they're away unexpectedly to go surfing. There should be everyone knowing their roles and their responsibilities and being able to work independently, because they all are working towards a common goal and a common purpose, and they all know how to get there. And yes, you need leadership, and yes, you need direction, but instilling that in each person so that you can let my people go surfing.
I actually write about this in my book. That's I'm finally finished the manuscript. It's going into editing now, but I call it like it's the single point of failure, and that happens a lot with founders. And I think that's why he hired somebody to be that person, or not be that person, but to make those decisions so that you didn't have that kind of an infrastructure. And that comes with tenure, right? Especially when you have people in your organization for a long time that have been around for a long time. And that really brings us to like our feature founder today, Jaime, where a lot of people in his world have been around
For a very long time,
for a very long time.
Yeah.
And you see that with low attrition rates, but what you also see is that you can stay lean because you have people with such depth and knowledge of the products, of what you're doing, that you're not trying to be a bloated organization because you just have everyone has to have so much silo as opposed to a holistic knowledge of the company and can make decisions with autonomy.
Yeah, and you don't lose all of that efficiency from onboarding people and hiring people and the gaps that you have with teams and everything when you just retain the people that are really good for a long period of time. I'm so excited to talk about it with Jaime.
Same. On that note,
Let's do it.
Let's welcome Jaime into the suite.
Okay, so welcome, Jaime, to the Sixth Suite.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Nikki, Claire, so great to be here.
Love it. We would love to start just with you telling us in your own words about how everything started for you for the Wildwood Park Media Corporation 25 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's coming up on 28 years now.
Wow.
So 1998 is when that started. So you want the whole origin story of this?
Absolutely.
It's long.
Yeah, do it.
Give it to
I
us.
could do it. So, it's kind of funny, actually, because, when we've been talking, like, I didn't study media. I didn't come up in media. Before this, I owned a Cantel store for the young people out there. That's Rogers today. And my partner and I, this is going way back. This is, when phones, you paid by the minute in the daytime, in fact.
I got burned on some of those.
If you were using a phone back then, again, for the young people, you pay 50 cents a minute for being on this phone.
This is such a Canadian
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, it was great back then. When we came into it, it was like the launch of this new Rogers Amigo phone. You get a free phone, a free car charger, leather case. Yes, leather case.
I feel like this is very Nokia brick.
Yeah. It's like, I think it was these colorful Nokia ones that they came up with. And then it was free evenings and weekends, and then it was still the 50 cents a minute in the daytime. But anyways, that's back to what I did for a living, and we sold pagers, another thing. Dating myself here.
I
had a
my
pager.
Yeah.
Did you have a pager?
Oh, yeah.
My pager, actually, I accredit my pager to probably saving my life once, because it went off hours after it was supposed to, and I reached forward. My car was stopped, and I reached forward into my purse to grab it, and my wheels turned and pivoted, and the car rear-ended me. And the people in front of me were still stopped, but they didn't stop. It happened to be a police car, by the way. And it slammed me, but instead of going into the car in front of me, I went into a ditch.
Oh, no way.
And because of that, I wasn't squished. Because the police cruiser was going 60 kilometers an hour when they hit me.
Oh my gosh.
Like, the car in front of me went flying another 10 feet after I flew. So like, I was like, oh,
So pagers saved your life.
Pagers
Okay,
saved my
so
life.
bring him back. Okay.
Yes, and back then it was not a funny thing to like, I remember I got in an accident once and then the cop said, you know what happened? I said, I was looking at my pager, and it was like, he's like, oh, I get it. It was like back then it wasn't a crime to do it. But we've learned since then. We've learned. That was
Don't text
early
and drive.
early days, right? Distracted driving. I left that business and then, Claire was telling you earlier, I went and traveled. I went to Japan and I went to Australia for a while, trying to, sort of my gap year late in life and trying to figure out, what I'm going to do. And then I came home and I was, sort of between things, just, again, trying to figure out what that next step was. And one day I was on my computer, this big, huge old computer back in the day. And, I was typing to my friend in Switzerland. And he said, if you go buy a microphone, we can actually talk through the computer. And again, the young people are like, well, yeah, who is this guy? How old is he? And I was blown away. I'm like, really? So I go and I buy this microphone and we're speaking through the computer to each other from these, faraway distances. And I was like, this is crazy. What if we like pushed this thing together, made a phone with the computer, and then we can eliminate long distance. And again, long distance, we used to have to pay for that, people. And so, I was like amazed with my idea, and I phoned one of the technology guys from this, Cantel company that I worked at, and I said, "Here's my idea. What do you think?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're spending $100 million on building out VoIP, voice over internet protocol. It's going to change the world. But I have an idea, and that is, I want to put up some posters on convenience stores." And I was like, I've got this great technological idea. And he diminished it to some, posters on stores. And so, anyways, Richard was, a smart and very intelligent guy, knew what he was doing. So I, met and talked about this idea. And so we started working on this together. So it was, initially it wasn't my idea to come up with this. I own that. But, Richard only worked on it with me probably for about a month. And then, he sold his company to GoDaddy and he moved to the Bahamas. And so I was left, with like 10 signs that we had put up in Vancouver. And I'm going,
Was this the Fuzzy Peach?
So this very first campaign that we did was for Clearly Canadian. We did 10 posters. And the campaign actually said, it was for Fuzzy Peach was the name of the new drink. And I think, I'll try to remember this, but it said, so I have a little peach fuzz, I'm new. And so it was kind of a great first campaign for Adapt and for this other company.
And this was the launch of Adapt Media.
This was the launch. This is the very first thing that we did, was with, the first few clients we had were Clearly Canadian, BC Lotteries, Pepsi, and some real estate agents. So this is all very local. There was only up to 50 posters in Vancouver. We were getting it out of slush funds. It was just like I knew somebody at Pepsi Bottling.
I was going to say, it's a wild mix of, like local realtors and then
Yes, and
Pepsi.
It was, and I didn't know, listen, I didn't even know what an
great
ad
placement for
agency
Pepsi though, right?
Yeah.
Like right at the convenience store level.
It made such sense. And so, but then it hit this level where they go, listen, you have to go deal with the ad agency now. And I said, who's this? I actually didn't know what an agency was at the time.
And now how many convenience store?
How many stores do we have now? So there's about 10,000 that we've been into. We work with huge partners. Circle K is one
From
of our
10 to 10,000.
Yeah, right, from 10 to 10,000.
You're not the one posting them now.
10,000.
No, I was originally though the one going and finding them. So I'd come to Toronto now that I find out about agencies, and I'd meet with these industry leaders. I won't say names, but it was dark in the beginning. It was very hard. You can imagine.
Oh, I can imagine.
Pardon me. So I remember going to one meeting at neither company that you're working for right now, but a very large organization, and I went in with my hand-cut media kit glued together, little pages that I'd perfectly trimmed and put it down, and I was showing this person about my small media network, and in the middle, she got up and walked to the window, and she's staring out the window with a bit of a glaze, and she said, in 5 years, if you're still in business, feel free to call me. And I was like, You know, or I remember, another one where I went in and they said, "Are you a member of COMB?" And I said, "No, it's that. I've never heard of that before."
Shout out to COMB.
And she literally walked out of the meeting, and the person left just said, "She's the boss. I guess, you need to be a partner with COMB." So, I mean, that made me look at, becoming a partner with COMB, and we're a very long-standing member. We're very happy to be part of that organization, and our good friend Lindsay Talbot has just gone to run it now.
Lindsay Talbot.
Yes.
She does work with us on iDream.
Today, I had a conversation with her, and she is going to be coming on the board of iDream. So we're very
My
excited.
dreams come true.
Yes. There's a pretty good crew coming on here. Well,
So, guys, you need to tell everyone about iDreams.
Oh, okay.
yes,
please.
okay.
iDream.
So yes,
But then you have to talk about how you're from Winnipeg for a moment.
yes.
As another prairier.
Okay, yes, I'll get into that. If I could, I'll just quickly finish this
Yes,
story.
please.
Sorry, yes.
No, that's all right, because then it's
we
over.
go on
'Cause
tangents.
I put it through my mind here, and I'm like, okay, now I have to sort of pour it out. But so I would go into these agencies, I'd meet with these people. It was very, they'd say, you need to have a national company, and okay, I didn't know what that meant. So I got in my car and I drove and I stopped at every little city, Moose Jaw, or Mukto, like it doesn't matter, like little cities all throughout Canada to build this network. And then, I put an ad in Card. And back then it was like a phone book, the original Card. You weren't living in Canada then, so you might not have seen it, but it's Card Online as you would know it. And so I advertised it. I have all these convenience stores with these posters, but I didn't have anything up. I mean, I did this as soon as I finished this thing. And within 2 weeks, I actually got a call from, in Winnipeg, this agency, McKim Kringen George, who represented APTN. And so
Yes, our friends
this
at
ties back into, this is why it ties back into Winnipeg. I'm from Winnipeg. Ironically, the owner of McKim, Drew Kringen, who owned it back then, Drew's no longer with us. And so, Drew, great guy, golfed with my dad, knew my dad. So that first issue where I didn't know what an ad agency was, my dad said, well, here, Drew owns one. You can go talk to him, and he'll teach you all about it. And so, he put me in with a few of the planners over there. And so they taught me everything about this. But just ironically enough, it was one of their other planners who I hadn't met that managed APTN that had read in Card that we have this network. And so it was for APTN's.
So advertising works, is what you're saying.
Advertising works. I mean, Card is getting a plug right here, I'll say. That was what took me, and I'm from Winnipeg, so it was easy to go back there and spend some time. And I knew, APTN very well.
So APTN, the Aboriginal People's Network.
That's right.
Television network.
Yes, exactly.
And phenomenal people.
Phenomenal
people there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I went back to them, I said, well, I have to level with you. I don't actually have this network. And here I did the math. It's going to cost X amount of money for the year, because I assumed they would just buy the whole year, right? Of course.
Of course.
Right? That's how media is bought. And what I later found out, through other, buyers and planners, they said, well, when you plan this network, when we talk about national, you went to every tiny little town along the way. Really, national is just Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. Maybe, get Calgary and Edmonton and Winnipeg in there if you're lucky, right?
And then, but then, we preclude those other markets, and there's actually really great growth audiences in those markets and a lot of brand loyalty, because the brands who show up for those markets really retain in those markets, which, I mean, you and I have talked about. We've all had this conversation ad nauseum.
Yeah, and we were actually at Digital Day Camp yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that if you go after adults 25-54, actually it means all of these smaller communities. It means the different ethnicities that are kind of making up Canada. Yet, when you look generally in media, adults 25-54 means a load of white people.
And it's interesting because Alan.
Yes,
Alan
Cifuentes was speaking there yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. And who's Alan in your work?
Alan is our Chief Digital Officer for Chameleon Digital Media.
That's right. And we'll get to
And a great
Chameleon in
friend.
just a moment, because we haven't even touched that story yet. But Alan, his knowledge was mind blowing. I literally had somebody ask me for my notes, my
really?
speaker's notes afterwards. I got a client was like, "Can I have those notes, please?" They wanted, and I did. I was like, "Yeah, you can."
Alan is amazing. He's a great speaker. He's a wonderful human. He just climbed Mount Everest. I mean, what more can we say about this guy? He did.
That's
He's
amazing.
done. I think he's done Kilimanjaro.
Yes.
Everest, and he did one in Mexico. I think that was a little harder for him. They handed him a harness, and he's like, "Whoa, wait a second!
Did I
need
sign
a
up for
harness
this?
for this one?" But
I think he'd get on with the founder of our previous case study of Patagonia then.
Yes.
Definitely.
yeah, we'll have to get him in there. Yes.
And Alan is also on the iDream board.
He
So let's
is.
talk
He's-
about iDream.
He's
for a
on the
moment.
iDream board, and one more plug for Alan. He's now the president of the Ad Club. Yes.
Nice.
So,
A position you formerly held.
but yeah, it's very interesting, Claire. So a position I formerly held, Amanda Newell, my CRO, has held recently,
Also
handing the
a
keys
spectacular human.
more recently, and also Frank Abellini, our COO, was also president. So we've got
Got 4 former and current Ad Club of Toronto. So we're going to talk about retention of great people soon, definitely. But iDreams.
iDream is so
Okay.
indicative to the purpose, which you can tell that just by the entire organization there is driven through purpose. And iDream is such a beautiful purpose-driven.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of what we've built there. It's taken some time, and so the backstory on iDream is really leads back to APTN. So, my hometown where APTN is based, and so when I said to the team there, I said, well, listen, I don't actually have this network up. Would you, consider if you give me a fraction of what we're looking for here for the year, would you give me the money up front? And so, the buyer looked at me and he's like, well, I've never heard of this before. I can take it to the client and talk to them. And so he did. He went and he spoke to Jean LaRose, who was the president at the time, and the marketing team over at APTN. And they said, we'll give him half the money. We'll roll the dice on this guy. He can go build his network. We'll put the money up front. So that is what gave me my money. They bought in without a network even existing, and gave me that opportunity. And I want to be clear, I'm not Indigenous, and this group is putting in with me, and I grew up with in Winnipeg.
I am half Indigenous.
Yeah, I know you are, and
And so that's why this story always it's so meaningful to me, because it is really the heart and soul of how you ended up.
It's true. So thank you. With that, I wanted to, seeing that they bought in with me and did such great things, I wanted to make sure always that I gave back to that community. And I never really knew how I could do that. And so it struck me at one time. Actually, I was at my gym, which is a Black-owned gym. Eddie owns this gym, great guy. And I always see him doing these amazing things for the Black community, for the Indigenous community. And, he was doing this saging thing one day, yoga and saging. And
That's
I
like
said, what
Nikki's
is
jam
this?
right
And he
there.
just,
You should know we
Yeah.
sage this space
Oh, you
every
do?
time when
Okay.
I walk in. It's the first thing that I do.
We'll
and
bring
the team
Eddie
here
in here,
is
and
so
he can
good to me about it.
do something with you folks. And so I said to him, I said, what is this? And he said, it's just something I'm doing for the community. I give back, and I want to do these things. And it made me really I'm like, I've wanted to do these things. What am I going to do? And so then, in thinking about all this, I have all these wonderful, amazing friends in media. Rogers, Bell, Chorus, Vendo, UB Media, Zoom Media, who are two people that, those companies put in $1 million in media into this. We put in that as well. But thank you to all of those people, every single partner. I can't name every 56 partners that we have.
Corby's was a big help.
Corby's was a huge help.
Day of,
Bell.
and the launch event, St. Cova Square,
Yes.
iconic. There's some good footage of that we'll have to try and also link in, because it was the renaming of St. Cova Square and the talent that was there.
Cardinal, came out himself. Natasha Fisher, Jermaine Franklin, Kim Sullivan from APTN, all were there. And then, so getting to the award. So in thinking about this, I'm like, what can I do? I'll reach out to all my media friends. I'll ask them if they can donate, media to this group, and we'll do a collection of media. And I thought, well, there's a lot of things in my life that I like that I think we could, talk about: art, music, film, sport, and entrepreneurship. And so we created with wonderful people like Nikki, who are on the board of directors that have been there to help us, see this thing happen.
Thank you to our friend Eleanor Bothwell, who
You know,
recruited
oh my
me
God, incredible.
into the organization.
she's coming in. Don't worry. We are finding ways for all these great people, and you know. But at the beginning, it was Alan and Sam Banks, and Sam was the first. Sam works for the NBA. One of my great friends. In fact, you know, we're in the Vertical Studio right now, and I met Sam through the original, you know, group that was at Vertical Studios. And so one of your partners here, Max, you know, I've been spending time talking to him.
They were in the studio with us last, actually.
Yes, I know. I saw.
You're going to be answering that question later.
So in good, you know, it feels like it's all kind of come back because, you know, I was meeting that group of people initially. We're now sitting in their studio, and Sam was one of these people who's like, you know, what can I do to help? What can we do to help? What can back then it was called Wonder Gaming. What can Wonder Gaming or Game Lancer do to help? And then further, the NBA. And the NBA is one of our partners now. So, you know, NBA Canada, the NBA itself, and then we're going to be, you know, having some folks involved as well. So you know, we've built it up, you know, to be this thing where we're giving away $5 million in media.
$5 million in media to young Black, Indigenous people of color, who founders, entrepreneurs, people in these meaningful space doing these meaningful. We had the little NHL. They won $1 million. So each category, I just want to clarify, each category, the winner receives $1 million worth of media for their organization, and that is generously donated from the amazing partners that iDream has, and then a team of largely led by volunteers. By the way, like the fact that Lindsay and these people are
please talk about your team, because it's your team. It's been your team.
They're incredible. Okay, I can fangirl moment for a second, because so Eleanor, who is who recruited me, funny enough, is on the team.
Okay.
And I joined the board, and then there's Eleanor Bothwell. There is Chimmy, who is the head of investment over at WPP, and a solid human being. She speaks like 4 languages, et cetera. Oh my God, just like...
I didn't know that.
Oh,
incredible.
Brilliant. You have Lindsay Talbot, who's now the head of COMB, and I had the chance to work with her when we were also at WPP. She was the chief investment officer there, and I had only heard the most amazing things about her. So when I was coming into the CEO role, it was the first time that I was going to be collaborating with her, and it was everything I had ever hoped for and then some. And oh my gosh, who else is on that committee? We have Jen Fields, who also has her own podcast as well.
Incredible podcast, yeah.
An incredible empowerment podcast.
Series, yeah.
Yeah, as well, but is at the trade desk and industry legend in herself. Great, amazing human being as well. Missing people. Not intentionally. Steve White, Nicole McPherson
at the beginning was just such a leader to help us. And then before that, of course, Nicole Brown was one of the main reasons why we got this off the ground. So a huge thanks to all of them, you know, for really helping build on the media side of this business.
Oh, and Jamie from Bell. That's who I was missing. The other Bell. Jamie. I was like, Jamie, but I kept looking at you and I was like, no, Jamie, our friend from Bell.
Yeah. I mean, so you really built an incredible team, and you know, Chimmy and Jennifer are going to be coming on the board of directors as well too. And so, you know, we'll
some more BIPOC friends in the industry. I
haven't had a chance to talk to Jamie yet. So, you know, and Eleanor, I know Justin's already claimed plans, you know, to corner her because she's just been absolutely phenomenal.
Eleanor's a powerhouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this whole team, everybody. We had our big event. We collected the media. We pulled it all together. And I have to say, first of all, to my team, my staff, many people putting in their time, their efforts, you know, just because, you know, my CMO, Kyle, built this, you know, with our entire creative team, built the entire evening for this. And it was a complicated night when we ran for, you know, in Sankofa Square. We were invited by the city of Toronto on the renaming day of Dundas Square to Sankofa Square to be part of that. And we ended up being a huge part of it because we were the evening portion, you know, which is
and we had the VIP section.
We had this whole VIP section, which initially was shrinking and then it grew, and it was sort of this back and forth. But I think the city of Toronto, the mayor had very nice things to say about, the organization and the input that we're getting from those groups. And, Ashley Mackenzie Barnes and her team and Cardinal and Natasha Fisher, just wonderful people that came out to support the day.
And it's a true, like we were talking earlier about the Patagonia case, but we were also talking about our boy band.
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Okay,
we like
I
to
was
talk
like,
and just about how many people it takes to collaborate and come together to really make change. And and that it's really just not a solo journey. Like you have to be willing to be flexible, be agile, be very resilient, work with a lot of different people, a lot of different agendas that people are trying to, the city of Toronto, the renaming, all of those things.
Yeah,
and then
that was
all the different
complicated.
donors that come into the organization.
Yep.
And all the volunteers who are, of course, they have real jobs.
Yeah, and I guess part of that, so with iDream and obviously also with WPMC, how do you approach that in terms of bringing all those people together and the retention rates that you've had in terms of both iDreams, people have been part of it, they never leave. It seems the same for the rest of your companies.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And it does show these strengths that we have with the partnerships and the people that we are communicating with through our company. Like as an example, Hewlett Packard, great friends. The chief marketing officer over there is somebody that I know, and they came in as a big partner with iDream, and it's we also work with them, with my organization, and yeah, there's longevity in our company. Like in fact, one of the creative designers that works for me today was there from like day one. So like almost 20.
Posting up next to you?
What's that? Where's the gold watch? He's probably wondering. Coming up on 30 years that he'll be with the firm. So sorry, Frank, who's been there for,
But you're getting a good prezi.
20 some odd years. Pardon me?
But he's getting a good prezi. It's fine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Always. He is getting great presents, of course.
So what do you think it is about the culture that you've built that keeps people around for so long?
That it's not run like, I think many large, hard to work for corporations were very open and easy about, the policies that, we're human, we can speak to you, we can do things together, that you can come to us with real problems and we can, work those things out. Whereas maybe in some, other larger organizations that might be harder. I mean, in this new world, I know a lot of big corporations, my friends at Google are like, it's back to work, like, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It is, you need to be in that office, right? And, we're not going to, we've tried desperately to try to get people in, but we're doing, 1 day a week at least, to try to do that, or once every 2 weeks. And for people that are, not able to do that, that's fine, so we'll work on those levels. And I think
I super love that because like at YQ, like on my advisory side,
Yes.
and I've had the pleasure of working with
Yes,
you,
you have.
and we meet once a week together as a team. And then you see other people or collaborate with other people as you need. But I'm a big gather with purpose person. Like, let's gather with purpose. And maybe that purpose is to literally sit in our jammies and like hang out and whatever, and that's fine too. But we also understand that life, like the Let My People Surf book from Yvonne in our Patagonia case was about. And it's like, sometimes you have to live a life and work in balance, and having that flexibility with your people, I think is just, it's like, listen, whether you started at 9 today or 10 today because you wanted to have breakfast with your child is irrelevant to me. Versus, did you do your job? Did you get the job done? And did you make that easy for the people around you to get their jobs done?
100%. Yeah. It's even we don't mind that many of the people in our company have blocked off in their calendars, drop off and pick up other kids. And that's fine. Like that is, and listen, and those people, like, there's no doubt in my mind that they're working well into the evenings often and doing, the amazing things. And the metrics are, what is the output? And I'm very proud to say very successful, and we've got incredible people. And somebody said to me once, like, never refer to your company as your family, because everybody has a family and there's so many problems in your family that you don't want to think about having another family. But,
I will agree with that, though. But I will say that a thriving community is where everyone has a place.
Yeah,
Right?
I think also big companies generally use family to be a bit toxic and
Right.
milk you for all you're worth. So I think that's probably also why people don't like that.
Yes, and there's a very different whenever you're building that from a welcome to my table community sense, welcome to the table, not my table, but the table community sense, as opposed to we're family purpose washing kind of background behind it.
Right. So I won't say we're family, but we're extremely close.
You are close, though.
Take Amanda Newell, who works for our company. She's just one of the most generous, thoughtful people. Like everybody gets a thoughtful gift on their birthday. I mean, for mine, seriously, Amanda, like I fear coming in for my birthday on that day. It's like, I mean, there will be this smorgasbord of food. There will be exploding balloons and fire. I don't know. She goes so deep on it, but that's how she treats her team. That's how we retain good people is having great leadership. Like, for sure, every person in my company is extremely valuable, to me personally. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I think they see other happy people there, and so they want to stay.
I was going to say, and that's like the ROI of that we saw, like that compound interest of tenure. That was the way I wanted to say that. But because it's true, right? That knowledge.
Yeah. The longer someone's there, the more they know. It just compounds on itself in terms of the value that you get out of that experience.
Right. I love that term, though.
And what it starts with is the human being at the core. It's the Amanda Newells of the world, and the fact that you even enable that, right? Not every leader enables. They may not be the culture maker themselves, but enabling. Like I have said that I'm not necessarily a culture maker, but I enable culture, and I love culture makers. I've worked with some incredible ones. Elle obviously being an ultimate culture maker, but Iselle is another one that I absolutely firecracker in the room, and they make culture. And when you enable that to happen, you just get out of the way of culture. Sometimes you're like, those are the moments that the team. There's like that stickiness in your people.
And I'm going to recommend that Amanda chooses Frank's 30th
Yeah.
present, maybe. It's just enable
she
that.
could, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. You're helping me. She can take on that role for the 30th anniversary. I do have to give one shout out to somebody that we haven't talked about, and he isn't. He's enabled so much.
Oh my gosh!
For iDream, it's Justin Senior.
It's Justin Senior.
And so he's just, to Justin's credit, like he's come into this role as our executive director. He's not sitting on the board. It's, this is a position that he
shows up every week.
But he's there. He's there. He's everywhere, and he has built this, with our team and the board and the 100 volunteers that he's brought into this thing. But I hadn't said his name yet, so I just wanted to make sure that, that was well carried forward as really the greatest leadership over at iDream.
I know. I feel like this was like, but it's true because we know these people so well from being around our community, and it's that 1,200 voices that it took to change how Netflix was working with people that we talked about earlier in the news segment of this episode and all of that stuff. But that's how many people it takes to make that kind of change and to be the type of leader that allows that. We're very grateful, Jamie. And I don't say that easily, and I don't say that lightly, because I am very grateful for that and the opportunity to sit amongst those people and to have free reign to bring in the best of the best people into the organization and never have any question. You never once said, "Oh, I want to have approvals. I want to whatever. I want to know who it is." You were just like, bring in some good people.
I was like, thank you. Just please keep doing it.
And use your judgment along the way. And that's not something that a lot of leaders, a lot of founders do. And when they don't, they become that single point of failure that we've talked about in their own organizations, because everything sort of collides into them.
It's like a bottleneck.
And it becomes that bottleneck versus trusting people that you've put in place, and you have that long-standing relationship with these people and that trust that's inherent in what they're doing, to allow them the autonomy to do that. And that's really meaningful.
That is, and I'd say, to your question, Claire, that is, I think, is enabling empowerment and giving people the opportunity to own what they're doing. And, and I learned that early on that, people like working at companies where they have ownership on things and that they can really, take on a task and, and that they can be the one that everybody looks after and says, they did it over there. I love starting things and then, seeing where people, take them, or having people come to me and say, I want to do this project. This is something that I want to do. So, absolutely. I'm happy that people want to do this because, it allows me to go on to, start another side of the,
So
the
really
business.
good at business, really bad at DIY because you start things and then someone else has to finish it. Okay,
exactly.
good. No, we wanted to say, so you've obviously kept some amazing people around for a very, very long time,
Yes.
both iDream and for WPMC.
Yeah.
What's next? What's happening for your companies?
What is next happening? So there's a lot happening still at this time. So there's Adapt Media, which is where we started with the out of home, which is really still even posters, which, and that's what sort of grew out of this was Adapt Media had many different things within it. It had, we were selling airports, we were selling digital media. And then we realized we sort of needed to break these into their own companies because it was strange coming into an ad agency and being like, we've got convenience stores and gas stations.
And you have to talk to everyone because it applies for so many different audiences and so many different brands.
We, of course, offer, all data overlays and analytics. We have all that as part of it in our platform that we built, Datalytica, so we can plan our campaigns, we can have our inventory management system, and we can showcase to the clients, what is the level of data that's overlaid to where your locations are.
And this came up yesterday as well on the panel, funny enough, where your client from TurboTax, we were talking about this, a more robust view of the consumer, and especially when you're using anonymized data and you are being privacy compliant, and in a way that it still allows you to understand the contextuality of the consumer, because consumers are, and this goes back to the adults 25 to 54 part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Let's close that loop, shall we?
Yeah.
We got off track from that.
Absolutely.
But that's
No,
what it
it's so
started
important.
from.
Yeah. And so Alan, who we talked about before, he runs Chameleon Digital Media. Cheryl Luciani, she's come on to lead sales for us. Incredible team. We're growing so much right now with that one right now. And we built this app, Datalytica, which lives under Chameleon Digital Media. In great honesty, like it's like this incredible thing that we've pulled together. It took 4 years to build it. We are absolutely rebuilding the whole thing now because of AI, because we don't want to just be another one of these people that pins on a piece of AI that you can ask a few things. This really has to be built with AI from the very beginning, very meaningful. And so it's going to encapsulate so much more than just what it is today, which is it's a reporting tool. So you get all your location data that comes in there. It has other forms of data that the agencies might have. And then, of course, it shows where all your billboards and things like that are. And you can tie in, DV360 and Google GA and all your socials and things like that to have one templated, reporting tool. But in the future, it is going to be much more.
All of them super nerds, and in our
Us included.
included, just like ding, 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 ding.
My brain is whirring for all the things I can do with that.
And on that note, I think it's a beautiful spot to end today, but we do have a couple of questions.
So we always ask our guests to leave behind a question for our next guest. So, guys, if you can please roll our previous guest's question, please.
The Podcast Exchange, or TPX, is Canada's leading podcast advertising partner. In a medium where trust is high, TPX connects brands with over 7 million monthly Canadian listeners through premium, hand-picked, emotional, and contextually relevant content with deep local expertise in a network of top-tier publishers. TPX supports you at every stage, from strategy and targeting to creative and measurement. Reach an audience that's actually listening. Learn more at thepodcastexchange.ca.
What is something that everyone told you not to do that you took the risk and did it and it paid off?
Everything. Everything. Every company I've ever started, everything. That's a good question. I don't know how I'm going to think of mine here quickly, but there's been so many stumbling blocks along the way, and there's a lot of risk. And I've taken a lot of risk. And listen, I'm sure if you sat down here with, people that, have taken these risks to start these things and do these amazing things, will say that there's probably a lot of people that said, don't do that. You're risking your money, you're risking your reputation, you're risking all these things. but where would they be today if they hadn't done those things? So
The entrepreneurial journey is one that is absolutely wild, and it's a true moment in time when you believe in yourself enough to take that step fully. And I've been an entrepreneur, as you know, for a very long time. And I own vacation rentals internationally, and I have an app
that's
coming
good to know.
out, and lots
She's
of
a
fun
good friend
things
to know.
that.
yeah, right.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a friends and family discount.
Oh.
That's actually very important to the way we modeled our ROI. Was we knew where we needed that to be in order to. It's part of my retirement plan.
I feel like the location, the link is coming up right now on the screen.
See the link below
Yeah,
to the
exactly. Subscribe, by the way, everybody.
going all in on myself and not having the safety net of a big company behind me that I have had for plus 20-ish, 5-ish, years behind me it was a real, that's a moment. And some people find that young and can do that and have that kind of belief in themselves. And we have hosted many of them on this podcast, and they've sat here in the suite with us. And some of us, do so. And it's my whole world's entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
My whole world, my parents, my husband, without a doubt, both of my children that's already the path they're going on. And I have, like I said, myself, but to be now fully independent,
You have to
as of
today.
a year, I think it's the way. We talk about this. You have to own your own rails. You have to. It's the way to sovereignty. I won't continue on because you need to leave a question for the next guest.
I will, and it's okay. What I would say to the person with the next question is, who has influenced you most in your life, and is it family or is it somebody else that you've leaned on, through your growth?
Love that question.
Oh, that's a
amazing.
great one.
Yeah.
All right, sir, we have one last question for you, and this one is for all the Sixers, and it's our favorite question to
Okay.
ask, but not for health and not for wealth and not for business. But if you had one piece of life advice that you could leave for our audience, for all of our Sixers, what would that be?
I would say, who you are in the real world here, or who you showcase yourself to be in this world is who you are in private. Be the same person, do the same things. When nobody's watching, continue to do these things. We do all these good things where everybody else can see us here.
That's what integrity
Let's make
is.
sure that we're still doing these things, behind closed doors.
Love that.
I love. Amazing. Jamie, I'm beyond grateful. Thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Claire,
so
thank you
much.
so much. Nikki, thank you. My genuine friend. Claire, I'm so happy to be my new friend. It's so great. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Okay, Nikki, so let's build the blueprint for our listeners. We've obviously heard from both Jamie and also we've been talking about Patagonia and Yvonne. So please wrap it up for us with our 6 things.
Our 6 things. Well, Claire, I'm going to say it over and over every time. Number 1, own the rails. You need to own your infrastructure. We saw that loud and clear today. Number 2, your contextual intelligence is your moat. From quality first to quality first. It absolutely shows up in the product, and that means everything to the consumer. Number 3, de-risk the disruption. Use your data. It is the power tool that is in your wheelhouse every day. It's going to tell you that if you drive across the country, you're gonna get the results that you want. Number 4, the environmental sovereignty moat, or in this case, the people sovereignty moat with Jamie. In any case, your emotional intelligence is a weapon in your arsenal. Use it and use it wisely. Equity is a logistics engine. Number 5. We've heard this one before, and it still stands true. When you treat your people with equity and they have that sense of ownership and pride in what they do, it shows up. And number 6 is always the unconventional move, whether that is taking out an ad before you even have the assets built, or selling carabiners from the trunk of your car. doing the thing that actually drives your purpose is the key to your success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both Jaime and obviously Yvonne from Patagonia really showed that quality, their values at the heart, people at the heart of everything they do, really builds amazing brands. So I think that sums up perfectly.
I think overall, our key message today is that disruption isn't about being the loudest. It's about owning the conduit. As Jaime and Patagonia showed us, the most powerful thing you can do is to be the architect of your own distribution.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the 6th.